everybody. Welcome to Would You Stay Tuned? From the people over at Fugitive Frames, the same people who bring you Newbie Star Trek. Maybe you know us from there.
Oh.
But anyway, the premise of Would You Stay Tuned is we take a show. It doesn't have to be brand new. It could be any show that one of us know. Maybe it's a show that none of us know and we're just curious about. We're going to watch the first bit of that show. Might be the first episode, might be their premiere. In the case of this one, Battlestar Galactica, it was a mini series that kicked it off. So it was like 2 parts that in total is actually kind of like 3 hours. So it's a really huge, big first chunk.
Is that how it aired? Did it air in 2 parts?
It was 2 nights. So it was night 1, night 2.
Because some of the breaks made it seem like it was potentially like a episode break, but they spliced it together almost. So I guess it was.
Yeah, I think it was a 2-hour broadcast for 2 nights in a row.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's that long.
And then this is also the Battlestar Galactica that we're watching is from what time period? This seems like maybe the 90s?
This is a 2003
oh shit,
production.
2003.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I remember correctly,
Isn't there another one that's
there was an original Battlestar.
There was one from the 70s.
The J.J. Abrams one. I'm kidding. There's no J. Abrams.
The original 70s show was created by Glenn Larson, who was also known for Magnum P.I., Knight Rider, and Sheriff Lobo.
Hell yeah. Dude.
All very similar to Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. That guy?
So this is not that, to be clear. We are not watching the 70s version.
We are watching the Ronald D. Moore reboot.
Yeah, and that name is
Brother.
a particular
that name is familiar.
Yeah. Brother of
us.
Ronald McDonald.
No. Well, okay, hold on. Before we get too far into
He's
that.
brother of Mandy Moore, not Ronald McDonald. Ricardo.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Come
Yeah.
on.
He's Roger Moore's brother.
Yes, exactly. Roger Moore's son, because he's old now.
Oh, yeah.
I realized while talking that I didn't finish explaining the premise. We watched the beginning, right? In this case, with the beginning of Battlestar Galactica. And then, based off of what we see, we're going to ask ourselves after discussion, would we stay tuned? Would we keep watching? Is this a good enough show or interesting enough show or curious enough show to, pique our interest? Is it something that we could see ourselves continuing to watch?
And usually one of us has not seen, at least one of us has not seen the show.
Right.
Yes. That's the whole reason why we can ask the question in the first place. At least one of us would have not seen the show yet. And
in this episode,
that would be the person who is most important to answer the question. Would you stay tuned?
So I will say I have not seen Battlestar Galactica in any way, shape, or form. Not this, not the old one. I've never read about it. I never even knew what it's about storyline-wise.
Have you heard of
However, you do at this point know a little bit about Star Trek, which is an interesting way to enter this.
Star Trek, I know. But yeah, other than the name Battlestar Galactica, I was like, okay, maybe it's space, clearly, and battle, maybe there's some kind of battle going on. That's as much as I knew.
Well, we should introduce ourselves. So you're Sarah, the person
I
talking
am Sarah.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am Sarah.
And you haven't watched. I'm Marvin. I have not seen any episodes of Battlestar Galactica reboot, but I'm generally familiar with it and what it's sort of about. And
like back when it was just airing on Sci-Fi all the time, you would just catch it every so often, right?
Yeah, and I would never watch a full episode, but I'd be like, oh, look, it's Edward James Olmos. Cool.
Yeah, it's either Edward James Olmos or the Boomer. I always felt like those were the 2 faces I was always seeing on screen.
I see.
Boom Howard? Before we get any further, I am Ricardo. I've seen it as well. I've seen every single episode of this series. And this feels like jury duty. Like when they go, you have to introduce yourself and you're like, what do you do?
We're trying to figure out why we cannot be on this jury.
Trying to get out. I'm fucking racist.
Which is someone yells out during the show jury duty.
Yeah, that's true. I'll just finish off by saying that I'm the one talking a lot here, so you might be able to guess that I'm someone who has seen this show in its entirety.
You're Dan.
And my name is Dan. Yes, that is correct. I'm Dan. Thank you. So actually, when I saw the original, or when I originally saw the 2003 show, I really liked it. I came in after it was already all done.
Okay.
Which is interesting because the ending is a matter of discussion amongst its fans.
Yeah. So should we do this? If there's any spoilers, we'll hold them to the end, and we'll make them clear. And also, if Sarah wants to hear the spoilers, because what if she wants to watch the show?
Well, I haven't watched it either. So I mean,
okay.
I think we should. There's definitely enough in the first miniseries. I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like we don't need to go into anything beyond this miniseries.
I don't know if we need to spoil anything. There's so much to talk about just in the 3 hours we've watched.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 hours is a lot. 3 hours is a dang lot. But yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remembered that one of the big interesting facts about Battlestar when it first was being produced was that everyone was saying this is the first TV show to kind of fully embrace a digital cinematography workflow. And I think they were like actually trying not to shoot it as if it's film. And they were being like, okay, we're going to embrace the harsh lighting. We're going to embrace that it's good in low lighting. And we're going to sort of lean into it. It's why nobody like is lit super flatteringly. And that seems to be on purpose. It's almost like a pre-J.J. Abrams Star Trek look.
Actually, yeah, you're kind of right about that. I can see what you mean.
There's like a lot of like light bleeding on the sides. He's not like shining a light straight into the camera like J.J. Abrams does in the Star Trek movies, which is a little obnoxious. But they're definitely not worried about light spill. They're not worried about creating perfect like key lighting scenarios. It's all very harsh. Which is like kind of...
it's made to look more realistic than anything.
Yeah. A lot of the lighting is like created by stuff in the environment.
Yeah.
The Battlestar Galactica hallways are filled with lights on the walls. And that's the only source of lighting for most of it. I think this might have started the trope of there's a light in your helmet and that's how your face is lit.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Huh?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Or like if not the start of it, it definitely like helped popularize for sure.
Yeah, because there's definitely a lot of that too. But yeah, it's sort of
how
was
else
like
would we see them, Marvin?
That's why they do it. It's like whenever someone's driving at night, there's a weird light source near their lap for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know.
They leave their
phone in their lap.
They leave those little lights by the mirror on all the time.
Yeah, it's always on for some reason.
My entertainment console is really bright. I'm well lit in my car.
You're well lit in your car. Okay.
Oh, in your car.
In more ways than one,
if you know what I mean. I watched this as it aired. I think
Wait,
the mini
back in the day.
Yeah.
Really?
2003 is not that far back.
So actually, even though I'm the guy, like
it's
quote unquote
2023,
hosting,
Marvin.
Ricardo's the OG fan here.
Wait, that's how many years ago? That's 20 years ago.
Okay, slow down, dude. Calm down, dude. You have to insult how old I am, okay?
Marvin's like, oh, it's not that long ago. I'm like, that's literally 20 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years is a long time.
So
20 years is a long time.
20 years is a long time. So how did you get introduced to it? Did you just see it being advertised on TV back in the day and you were like, that looks interesting? Like, what was the marketing around this? Like, how did they get people to watch it?
I think it was the first time I had cable again.
20 it feels like it was sci-fi's Mad Men.
You said 2002. When did you say 2003?
2003 is when the miniseries started.
So was this on Sci-Fi then?
Yeah.
Yes. So I think the miniseries had aired, and you know what? I want to say the first season had aired, and
then you
someone
said,
and then someone said, "Oh, this show's really good. It's going to start the second season. You should start watching." And then I caught up. I was like, "This is confusing. What do you mean? There's 2 episodes?" He's like, "Yeah, there's a miniseries and then the season." And then after I got over that whole confusion,
it is confusing.
Yeah, it was back then when you had Netflix had discs.
Oh boy. Okay, yeah.
And I caught it right before the new season aired, so like because they had just released it, so people could watch it before the new season. And so this was one of those things, and spoiler alert, I did continue watching beyond the pilot. You're one of the people who have already seen the show. So I watched I rented the pilot. I watched those 2 episodes, and you could actually rent that as a miniseries. That was its own thing.
Oh,
and then season 1 was its own box set.
Makes sense. Yeah.
When people watch the box set, they're like, "Oh, it's interesting," but like I feel
we're starting right away in a weird thing, and we don't know what the basis of it is.
Yeah, and you didn't get to see the beginning of the thing. You just got tossed into it.
That's kind of unfortunate. Like even in modern day, like we had kind of a difficult time trying to figure out how to get this set up to watch correctly, because it's still hard to parse.
Well, I guess Marvin, I think if you watch it if you watch it on a streamer, if it's available.
Mhm.
I think it's like labeled correctly
On a streaming service, it's labeled
and also
correctly.
I think now if you like buy it like on Amazon,
Right.
Prime or something,
like the full DVD box set was like a
everything is
regular
included.
discounted something.
Gotcha.
Or other.
Okay.
Yeah,
It kept
and I think
coming up.
I think also like they took it as like, oh, it's a good TV movie on its own if you just want to watch the pilot and don't want to keep watching.
Yeah, it's a good TV
Actually,
movie on
it
its
is.
own. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 hours went by really quickly when we were watching
and
this.
it's definitely like a setup movie, like because it does resolve though. So like it does have a beginning and end. There is a emotional like arc
resolution of something.
Yeah, obviously they intentionally put a cliffhanger at the end, and they intentionally do all this stuff to make you hooked for the actual full series that comes up. But it could be its own self-enclosed thing if you never concluded it. So that I think that was part of why it's satisfying. It's a good pilot in that way, in that you feel resolved, but there's definitely a hook to keep going in that way. But I guess we should talk about what the heck it even was.
Okay. All right. So allow me to attempt to summarize 3 hours.
Really quickly, because there's so much.
Very quickly.
It's a very dense 3 hours too.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll go through like the first bit in detail because I feel like it's a little important, and then the rest we can just start focusing on what we found most interesting. So the beginning of part 1, it begins with a bunch of text. It says pretty much a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there were the 12 colonies of Kobol, which was basically like a settled solar system. And they made a bunch of robots called Cylons that got all sentient and murdery as robots will do. And after a big old war with them, they declared an armistice. And they built a remote neutral space station out in space where they can meet and have diplomatic relations with these Cylons. I guess the Cylons fucked off to space.
Yeah.
And then the humans kept sending a guy out to this station every year, like, hey, Cylons, if you want to talk, we're here. But got ghosted by the Cylons for 4 decades. But then after 40 years pass, suddenly they finally send someone, but it's like this hot blonde lady who's all, are you alive? Who cares? And starts making out with the guy as the Cylons destroy the neutral base facility.
But you also see two normal Cylons or OG Cylons.
Oh yeah, they're also normal Chrome Centurion Cylons, which are like the current model of the old robot types that they used to deal with in the past. Yeah, the toasters.
Wait. So
that's a slur.
We should say there's 3 versions, right? There's like the big hulking robots, right? And then there's the stormtroopers.
They have not been introduced yet.
Oh, I thought you saw them in the pilot.
No,
I don't think the big guys are in there yet.
Okay,
we just see the normal looking, like the 6-footer, the stormtrooper ones. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, and then
we have a hot lady.
Yeah,
or shift shaper, or
you're giving out big spoilers, Ricardo.
Model number 6. Yes.
No, the big ones are in the pilot. Sorry.
No, they're not.
I swear they're in the pilot, dude.
They're not. We didn't see any big ones. No.
All right. Well, anyway,
maybe okay. There might be big ones, but they're not bigger enough to see a difference in what we saw.
No, I'm looking at the pilot. There's bigger ones in the pilot. I'm looking at it right now. First episode, big ass ones.
But they're human size. They're like a larger human. They're not like. What do you mean by big?
That's what I mean. So
is there a different old school Cylon that looks smaller than that?
Yeah. So the one that I'm thinking of. Sorry, I'm confusing them.
Are you talking about 70s era Cylons?
Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, sorry. Those aren't there anymore. They don't use them anymore.
They're not. They're just like the regular, like a little bit bigger than human ones, and then the hot lady one.
They look like Fulgore from Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
Yes,
which is not a bad way to go.
Fulgore was a ripoff of that. Yes.
I'm a little disappointed how easily this representative was taken by this hot lady.
She's really hot. So
what do you mean?
It also comes out of nowhere. It just seems like a schlubby guy. It's like, whoa, what's going on?
He's also not even sure if she's a Cylon. So
is this a dream? That's a legit question at that time.
He's there for a job. Like, why are you making out with this lady?
I know, but why wouldn't you?
But imagine if your job is go sit at a desk empty with no music or anything to entertain you for like 10 hours. Or whatever.
He doesn't even have a Game Boy.
But then instead, in comes a hot person who's willing and ready to make out with you. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Also, considering that, this is probably not a ideal gig, they probably got the lowest ranking, schlubbiest guy who could qualify to do this.
Exactly.
This
is at this point after 40 years, they're probably not
Yeah, it's just some guy.
This guy fucked up. He's the problem.
Well, he couldn't have done anything about it.
Yeah, what could he have done?
He could have. They're going to build like space station.
Could he have like lit a fire on the Great Wall of China and said like, now all of China knows you're here.
Now all of Cobalt knows you're here. Good.
We'll never know. But anyway, she's hot in a 90s way. Like that.
In a 90s way.
She's hot in a very
what are you talking about? In a
like
early universal
no, because she has. Okay, let me break it down.
She can time travel to any fucking century, and she's
no,
dude.
No, let me break. No.
I feel like the most dating thing is her hair. Her hair is the most dating thing.
So let me break down her look, which I paid very special attention to because it's very early 2000s, 90s. So we got the model skinny. We got like thin as a rail, very popular back then.
Okay, sure.
Very little curves. That's very popular aesthetic for that time frame. We have the blonde hair, also very popular for that time frame. We also have the pencil thin eyebrows, which are now making a comeback to younger people, who want to look like Pam Anderson with the very thin penciled in eyebrows. A very 90s look.
But I guarantee you no kid today knows who Pam Anderson is.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
No. Well, she's very much in the spotlight right now, but she just came out with a book and a documentary on Netflix.
Which, to be fair, though,
that's why in the beauty space, in the young space, that's making a resurgence. The 90s look is making a resurgence. So
right, but to be fair, especially the Netflix thing is sort of a throwback. Like it's a nostalgic for people to be like, "Oh, what happened to Pam Anderson?" It's not so much,
but I'm saying that it's the trend is cycling again.
Yes,
so to say,
everything is in a 30-year cycle. Yeah,
I take back what I said. I didn't realize that there was something that recent about Pamela that has been like culturally current. So
and she's been making a lot of news headlines lately. Yeah, so I instantly that made me think like, okay, this transports me to a time frame of like early 2000s, 90s look and aesthetic, which I really liked a lot.
Also, though, because to me, visually, what sets the visual tone for me is that they are very willing and probably can't do much about the fact that it's super like noisy. And by noisy, I mean like video noise.
Visually noisy, yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of video noise, which is like, I guess, the video version of film grain, essentially. It's just that if the signal's boosted too high so that you want to be able to see things, it creates grain. And back in the day, or actually not back in the day, now video noise is considered, and even back then too, I guess, not ideal. There's all sorts of tools. You're supposed to shoot a certain way to not have grain or noise. And there's also lots of denoising tools. But, like they always say in art school, stuff that's unappealing back then becomes style 20 or 30 years later. And so it does feel like it's the style of this type of shooting in this era where they're like, yeah, it's full of digital noise. And that sort of adds to the aesthetic of the fact that it's sort of like a 90s look at sci-fi in this way. And
it also feels like a really like, I don't know. This is a word that I use like without much care, but almost reckless VFX. Where it's like, we don't care what our base plates are. We're just going to stick fucking CG models on them.
I thought the VFX were pretty good for that time.
They're
They're good for
decent
the time,
for their time,
they are very of their time as well.
I think the VFX feel above TV VFX at the time, but below movie VFX of the time. So it's somewhere in the middle.
I agree with that.
So so they definitely put money into it. Sci-Fi decided to really put money into it, which is great.
It was BSG perfected the like shot in space of a ship in space and zooming in really close to the ship in space.
Where's a ship? Oh, camera guy, zoom in. Oh, but I zoomed in the wrong spot.
Find the ship. There it is.
I have to reposition.
Yeah.
It's classic now. It's very classic way of doing
it. And also, like, this show takes a lot of cues from, like, The West Wing, where there's a lot of walk-in talks.
Yeah, so many hallway talks.
Well, that first shot, I mean, this first shot, Serenity, the movie, totally rips off, where they're going through the whole ship to try to get a lay of how the ship works.
Oh, yeah,
Serenity,
okay.
Serenity
All right,
Serenity totally does that.
That'll get me back into the summary. They are walking through the Battlestar Galactica, which Battlestars are their like warships, basically. And the Galactica in particular is a very old warship that is being decommissioned and turned into a museum.
It almost already is a museum.
Yeah, they're pretty much done. Like,
already
it's supposed
built a
to become
gift
a
shop.
museum. Yeah, they are supposed to, they're winding down.
Yeah.
Because it's peacetime and everyone believes it's currently peacetime. Meanwhile,
And they won the war.
Yeah.
At this point.
An armistice was declared. So, I mean, war is over.
Close
I don't know
enough.
if they said that if they won. But
One minor
Got it.
detail. So we see a lot of people walking around. One of them's a news reporter, and he's got like a mic following him, right? I do like that. It's like, it is a boom op, but the boom operator's holding the tiniest little shotgun mic in the world. It's like the size of like a cigarette.
they were using all the real mics for the production. They don't have any to spare, damn it.
I kind of like the feel of it, where it's just like, yeah, you still need a boom op in this future, but the mics are so advanced now they can be tiny.
No. It's way more efficient to make paper and then cut off every corner of it.
But also they had to pay this.
All the memos are made.
They had to pay this guy. This is an extra, so like they had to pay him, and they're like, it's hazard pay if he's got to carry a heavy boom. So let's just give him.
Yeah. What if it drops it and hits the guy? We'll put a tiny ass mic on it.
Yeah.
All right. So,
but it's a great opening shot. It's like not only technically really interesting, but you get the sense of how Adama interacts with every one of his crew members. He's constantly trying to practice his speech.
Yeah, I never heard someone say that.
Adama, I guess. Adama, yeah.
Yeah. Adama.
Did you say Adama?
Adama. But he's like constantly trying to practice his speech, and everyone keeps interrupting him.
Yeah.
But he's not frustrated. He's just like, oh yeah, I have to do this thing. Oh, hey, Starbuck. Cool. We have to do this? Okay, cool. And then
I will say right now that Edward James Olmos, I love that guy. I love watching
great.
his haggard, tired ass being competent and old.
Yeah.
I just love him.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah.
He's pretty good in this role. This role seems made perfectly for him.
It's so good for him.
I think I started watching. I think that's one of the main reasons I started watching, because there was nobody. Oh, and then the girl in the red dress and on the
Oh, really? I think that's the number one reason anybody starts watching.
Yeah.
They put her in all of the trailers. That's for sure.
Yeah. She was the face of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, she was.
Somehow she was.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, right now she's the most mysterious member. You're like, what is her motivation? Because it seems like it's not entirely to fight as the Cylon. It seems back and forth almost. So it's kind
This
of
would be a good character to dress up as at like a con or something.
There was so many.
I'm sure
There's probably so many. It's easy to do. You just need like a blonde wig and a very sexy red form-fitting dress.
Yeah, I guess BSG probably missed like the bulk of like Crazy Con, like, because that happened after 2008 when Iron Man hit.
But by the time cons got super popular, Caprica came out, and
Caprica was not nearly as well regarded.
That was a huge
BSG
bomb.
was.
Yeah,
Caprica was a very differently flavored series.
On purpose, apparently.
They did want to deviate, drastically from what they had already done. They didn't want to do war drama no more. They wanted to be like more political stuff or more like sci-fi tech, like more Quandary stuff on Caprica, the planet.
Yeah, because Ronald Moore said his big regret with Battlestar was that because it's so war driven, like 99% of the audience was male, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not that into that. Like, I kind of wished." It appealed to more people.
Are we sure it wasn't because of number 6?
I mean,
what if they should have had a super hot guy Cylon too?
Yeah. Well, you never know.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe find out.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the equivalent of the super hot guy is Edward James Olmos in this. So
I would say
pretty.
No, I would say that Adama's son is like the
he's
Apollo.
He's
yeah. Apollo is kind of like we have Tom Cruise at home.
Yeah, Apollo. Yes, Dan, that is absolutely fucking the perfect analogy. I could not have said that better.
I mean, and I don't mean that to really like knock on Adama or like Lee. I do like his character. I think he's a good character throughout the show, but Yeah.
Should we just go like a quick synopsis and then we can get into it because we're getting into like the weeds, I feel like. And like
right. The last thing I touched on was that the Battlestar is being decommissioned, turned into a museum. Yeah. Meanwhile, Gaius Baltar, scientist extraordinaire and shitbag, is in a relationship with number 6, the hot lady. Somehow she's on Caprica, the planet. I don't know why, but she is sexing him up,
dude.
Getting all the secrets, infiltrating the shit, and pretty much engineering the downfall of humanity. Because Cylons come and attack all the colonies, everything in sight. Humanity is wiped out in a nuclear holocaust, essentially, and there's only 50,000 people left. Period.
Yes.
And they're kind of scattered and they have to kind of gather each other in one place because the civilians are in one area and the war people are in another place.
Well, by the end you find out that like the Battlestar Galactica is the only battleship that survived. All the other ones were
the
blown
only
out.
warship survived.
Yes.
Yeah.
They throughout the thing you keep going like, okay, well the other one's getting charged up. The Admiral's on there. It's gonna go well.
And the reason why it survived is because it was so old. Along with all the fighters that were so old.
Everything's like analog. Like they still like everything has cords on it. Like
it was the only thing that wasn't hooked anything. Up. It was the only thing that wasn't hooked up to ChatGPT.
I love that detail so much.
It's great.
Well, I mean, this is the I don't know if like they researched like actual like IT security or anything, but that's like air gapping is a real thing for IT security. Like this is how
air gapping is a totally different term if you look on the internet.
Well, it's actually like what actual IT security professionals do for really important infrastructures. And that's exactly what happened with Galactica. So
yeah. Inadvertently though, it's not like they were planning for it.
Yes. Although it may sort of in a way though, because Adama goes he says he intentionally
that's gonna drive me nuts.
But he intentionally,
I don't know why that's in your head like that. They say the name so many times.
But he intentionally doesn't trust computers. So it was actually his distrust of computers.
I love that detail about Captain Adama or Commander Adama. He's great because of how much he hates Cylons.
He hates computers, and his room is full of books
and computers.
Yeah, like he doesn't have fucking computers in his room. It's just like an old library. That's what he prefers, and it's like it's great.
Yeah, I guess. Go ahead, Ricardo.
I was going to take like one branch of it, and then we just because there's like 3 main branches of the storyline basically, and I was gonna just take one and run with it, and then we could do the other ones. But so one storyline is Adama. Is he Colonel? Or what is he? Admiral? What is he?
Commander.
Which
made me confused because he's a commander, but his son is a captain, and technically captains outrank commanders.
Well, so in this universe, my friend.
But does his son actually like?
I don't think he actually outranks him in universe.
Okay.
No, I don't.
That's
think
interesting.
he does.
Then I wonder what their command structure is.
And also, I think it's kind of like the Navy and the Air Force, where I don't think they're. I think they work in conjunction, but like I don't know if they're the same branch. I don't know. This is getting into the weeds of the military system that they have. But so when the show starts and throughout the show, the pilot, you see Apollo. What's his first name?
Lee
Adama, and his call sign is Apollo. And basically their storyline is that he hasn't seen his dad in years. His brother died in a training exercise, and he blames his dad, and he hasn't talked to his dad since then. And Lee feels like his dad pushed his brother to be like just like him, like Lee, but he didn't have what it took to be that like prolific.
Right. Yeah, and to be something he's not in flight piloting.
And he had an accident and he died, and so he blames his dad, and he's holding a grudge, and he has to go to the Battlestar because his dad's basically retiring, and he has to be there to like show face and and
to perform a
flyby maneuver. Yeah. In that storyline, you also encounter Starbuck, who you find out was his brother's fiance. And
I didn't know fiance. I thought maybe just girlfriend, but maybe I missed that detail somehow. Okay, cool. That makes it more
And Starbuck
serious.
is not her actual name. Her name actually name is
Kara.
Kara.
But but Adama calls her Starbuck because he's into books, and Moby Dick, Starbuck is the first mate. So that's why she's Starbuck, I guess. So that must be, I'm assuming, based on...
that's her call sign.
It's her call sign.
Oh,
yeah, it's her call sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that still
all
fits.
All the pilots have the call signs that they go by, alternatively, like Boomer.
Okay,
Elo.
gotcha. I didn't realize that was her call sign too. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so the other storyline, Dan, what do you think I guess the Cylon and Gaius Baltar is the second storyline?
Number 6 in Gaius.
Yes,
or Gaius in general. It's debatable whether or not 6 is actually part of this, but
yeah. And then the third storyline is I would call her the superintendent. Right?
Well, it's the designated survivor storyline where
she's the what's the
Ministry of
lady?
Education,
or
the Secretary of Education.
What's the secretary? What's the really bad Secretary of Education we had? What was her fucking name?
Betsy DeVos.
Betsy Johnson. Betsy DeVos, not Johnson. Oh my god.
Betsy Johnson.
Not Betsy Johnson. Oh my god, no. Betsy Johnson's amazing.
He's a Lady Bird Johnson.
DeVos. There we go.
That piece of shit, Lady Bird Johnson.
She plays.
Wait, was it Betsy or Betty? Whatever.
Betty?
Doesn't matter.
Whatever.
She plays Lara Roslin, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which I think is funny
Secretary of
because
Education.
This actor played the first lady in Independence Day, and now
she did.
Yeah, now she plays the president.
That's probably why she was hired. She had a good resume for it, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're like, you were already almost president, so
yeah. She's like, look, I've played president in an alien type thing before, and it makes sense. So.
And she was also in Dances with Wolves.
Okay.
And so her storyline is that she's
43rd in line to be president,
and because of all the people that are lost in this attack, she is the designated survivor, and she becomes a president by the end of the show.
She also has cancer.
She also has cancer, and only her. Not her page. What am I thinking?
Her aide?
It's like her assistant, I guess.
Her assistant, her aide knows about it.
Is his name? His name's Billy, right?
I think Billy.
Yeah,
he's her chief of staff.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So more than just an assistant. Okay.
Sorry. Apologies to Billy.
Well, maybe he becomes chief of staff after she becomes president, and then she needs a chief of staff. So there we go.
And guys, Baltar's storyline is that, of course, he's kind of. He's not even. Would you say? I don't say he's in love with the Cylon. I would say that
infatuated.
He's more like lusting over this girl.
Yeah, it's lust. Yes,
and it makes him reveal some state secrets. And
he's kind of a very slimy guy.
Yeah,
like
he's a slimy and above all self-serving guy. Like he is nothing if not selfish. Like
which
that's
is
a defining characteristic.
He is absolutely the kind of guy you do not want in this position. Like,
and he makes it abundantly clear at the end when he goes, "I'm on nobody's side" to his own hallucination.
I know, but they should do like personality screenings. Like, are you?
They're not in a position to do that right now.
No, but like back before he got this really sensitive, crazy job, like
that's
let's tempt you with like a random girl, and do you give up your secrets in bed? Like, you failed the test, you don't get the job. Like, I don't know.
They clearly weren't on edge or on
or did they not call references? Like, if you have to work for the FBI, they like call your whole family.
They were about to dismantle one of their biggest battle stars, so I think they weren't.
Like, how likely is Gaius to give up crazy secrets?
I don't think they were that. I didn't think they cared enough to fucking do it. But also,
look where it got them.
So by the end, so this is this quick little synopsis is that he gives away state secrets. Oh, and then we should say the Cylon girl kills a baby.
Oh yeah, she died for no reason.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I don't think she intends to kill the baby, or rather. No. It's not like a malicious act of evil.
What?
It's more curiosity.
Yes.
It looks like she meant to kill the baby.
I think what she is, she remarks how fragile it seems, and I think she wants to test how fragile it is.
Yes,
because she doesn't seem to attach.
She snapped its neck.
Well, I don't think she attaches an emotional connection to that. I think she just goes, "Oh, that broke. Interesting."
I don't know.
I don't think she's satisfied by the fact that she's killed a baby. I think she's just like, "Oh yeah, it is that fragile."
Yeah.
She's like, wow.
She's a machine. I don't think she feels anything.
Right, and that's kind of what I mean. It's like there's not
I don't know
if I would agree with that.
I don't agree with that. I disagree with that 100%.
Because I think it's really clear that she has her own obsessions with Gaius. Yeah. So I don't think
exactly.
Well, which fucking number 6 are we getting? I mean, there's fucking. She said there's how many of them? I don't even know.
But it's the same one, just transfers bodies.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. I took it to be there's multiple of her running around.
No, well, so there are. There
are. But they all are her. So she can distribute herself.
They're all one board
amongst different bodies. So that's what that means.
Yeah. And when one of them dies, they upload whatever. They upload their memories.
The Cylons, from what I can understand, Cylons are essentially multiple man. So multiple man in the comics can separate into multiple versions of himself, but they can all reform and he regains their memories. And I feel like that's how Cylons work, in that
each model is its own Borg collective.
Yeah, a different Cylon could be like, well, I'm going to send this version of myself over there to do this job and get that information back when I need it.
But it's still the same version. It's just a different body, basically.
Yes.
Okay, I did not understand that until now.
Yeah.
It's also exactly how Naruto works.
Yeah, these are all shadow clones, multiple man, the Borg, all the same.
I mean, then I take it back then. Like, I feel like then, I mean, clearly as we progress, she is different. She's being marked as a different Cylon of some kind. In some way, right? Like she has these weird feelings. She's kind of seems like she's giving Gaius like some clues to things, you know?
Well, for that part, we don't know. That the part when we start seeing the version of her that's only in Gaius's head, we actually still not sure whether that's truly her explanation of there's a chip in his brain. My wild theory is that Gaius is now a Cylon. So that's what I think it is, and that she did something to sort of like convert him.
Well, she teases that possibility. We don't know if it's true, but she's like, "What if you were sleeping and I put a chip in your head?"
Yeah,
I mean, I'll be honest. At this point, it's been long enough since I saw the show that I've forgotten everything about how this plays out.
Like, there's three possibilities. It's either he's just straight up hallucinating, like he thinks her theory is correct, and there is a chip, or there's something else, and like he's either a Cylon now and therefore has some sort of mental connection, or I'm not sure.
There's a fourth one.
Oh,
which is the Fight Club theory, is that he's so smart that he's just giving himself. It's like he can almost like think like her.
Yeah. Got it.
He's so smart that
that would be the first
like
option.
Her.
The first option is he created this hallucination. Yeah.
And so I'll say this: since I've seen every single episode, and as soon as I started watching, everything came back, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Is that Gaius Baltar? I hated him the first episode, and every season was a roller coaster ride. Like, you love him. You seriously love him.
So,
yeah, that's true. That is something I remember about it. It's like he's a piece of shit, and he keeps on being a bitch, even when he tries to stop being such a bitch, and then he keeps being a bitch.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, you kind of get a sense of that even in this pilot, because you get a sense that he's a piece of shit, but he is genuinely very smart.
Fighting his inner demons.
Yeah, and he's genuinely like realizing he's doing something bad, and he wants to try to fix it, but his way to fix it is bad, you know?
Yes,
he's like chaotic evil, but not chaotic evil. He's like neutral evil almost, where like his methods aren't necessarily good, but overall he leans towards not being a good guy. But he seems to be trying to parse what the correct thing is to do, but he's also so cowardly he will never admit to
he's a
anything.
selfish coward, so he'll never do the right thing, even though he knows it's what's right.
Yeah, so
he's also willing to come in public.
What?
Well,
we don't know how far he got.
Yeah, you don't know.
Although I'll bet he was
Just
willing
kidding.
at least. I'll bet he was willing.
Yeah,
I think unless somebody interrupted him, he came very close to climaxing in public multiple times.
well,
And I was shocked.
He in there.
Yeah.
He in there.
And I do want to say, like, you do see jealousy when the sexy Cylon comes in and she catches him with another woman in bed.
Oh yeah.
She does.
Oh, yeah.
You see that she's definitely jealous.
Even in
and, like,
even
it
in
hurt
the
her.
hallucination version of her at the end when he says I'm on no one's side, right?
Yeah.
I think it's telling that they cut to her and they show her reaction shot, which means that she probably is a real thing to some degree, not just a hallucination. If it was just a hallucination, the creative thing to do would be to have her disappear. But they actually make a point of it to show her. So it makes it seem like this is a real reaction because she's not happy when he says that. So I find that really interesting.
She's
I think
also willing to help him in some way.
yeah,
whether
she has
that's
an
real or
agenda of
not.
wanting to support him, which is really interesting.
And
too.
then when the nuclear or the bombs go off, she says, I forget what exactly she says, but she's like
duck. She's like,
or-
yeah, I'm trying. I'll
she's like protecting
She
him,
shields
and
him.
somehow,
Yeah.
somehow,
Yeah, she shields
somehow
him.
she manages to protect him in a way that he actually survives to that
and she
random
doesn't.
field.
I have a question for everybody.
See, my wild theory is that he actually dies in that, but she actually can save enough of him to create a Cylon out of him. That's what my theory is, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Interesting.
I don't buy it.
Interesting.
Just kidding.
I have a question for everybody.
Yes.
Something that model number 6 kept on talking about was God and religion.
Oh,
Yes.
we need to
And in
talk
fact,
about
that's actually
that.
kind of a thematic thing throughout this
Yes.
miniseries.
Is it
That
ever?
People pray
Yeah.
a lot. The
got
final
beat
ceremony
on the
is a
head with
religious
it.
ceremony, which is interesting.
Right. It's like it's a religious military.
Yeah, and it's very interesting.
There's a lot of religious tones. Like everybody is referencing praying their gods of Kobol. Kobol? Is it
Gods
right?
of
Yeah,
Kobol,
the
Lords of
12
Kobol.
Lords
Lords
of Kobol. Yeah.
There's a lot of religion and but it's like everybody. And Gaius is the only
Yeah.
one who kind of stands out. Even the Cylons, because like she talks about being religious too.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not religious. Haha,
But she says God. So I wonder
Yeah,
if
she keeps on talking about God.
I think she has a different
Specifically.
perception of a religion than
still
the
a religion.
humans do.
I'm not trying to say it's the same one, but even the Cylons and every single person seems pretty religious, which is,
Yeah.
I found like the themes are so heavy. And I just was I found that really fascinating. Like, I don't know what to think about it, to be honest.
Yeah, but at the same time, it doesn't really feel like they're making much of a statement about it either. This is like it's a
it
setting.
just is. It just is.
Yeah.
They built a
To me-
world where religion seems to play heavily into their military.
But it's
Yeah.
interesting, right? Because it's the
It
future,
is interesting.
right? Where you think that as future and time goes on and technology goes forward, even now you're seeing nowadays less people. They've done surveys. Less people are religious as we move on in time. Like there's less people that go to church, less people that consider themselves religious than they did decade ago, 2 decades ago. So you would think by the time we're in Battlestar Galactica.
So
that
I would
there
argue
be less
that's
religion.
only by that's
Yeah.
only by the conceptions of traditional religions.
Yes.
I feel like
I
the
agree.
concept of new religions or even new like spiritual or just syncretic beliefs like that aren't necessarily based in fact are going to keep arising as the future comes. It's only religion
Possibly.
in those things classified.
I mean, sorry, you just sparked something that I'll forget if I don't jump in.
Mhm.
You said I'm 100% with you wholeheartedly, because think about all the people that are like into like essential oils and fucking crystals, like
Right.
like how that's the new thing. That's, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah, and it is true that like right now stuff like astrology and stuff like tarot reading are
That's
more
always been around, though.
but they are more popular right now than they have been in a very long time.
I don't know. I was into tarot cards when I was 10 years old.
I
It's
mean,
always
now,
been a big-
as in the like this,
Yeah.
few decades, not like we're talking about in the span of the scope of like century, millennia.
of mankind, in the scope of
Yeah.
mankind.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I think because of the way, so Star Trek is interesting because this is obviously going to make a comparison. Star Trek original philosophy is that as time goes on, religions go away.
Mm.
But I don't think that's true, because I think there will always be some part of the human mind that has trouble reconciling if something is explainable or not. And the human mind tends to move towards something explaining things as being something out of their control. And
but things are becoming more explainable as time goes on.
But also
one
the
thing
more
that I want to point out to everybody here is that like we have been talking about this framing as like as BSG is set in some sort of future.
Yes, I want to.
That's also the other thing.
Yeah,
this isn't Earth, and it's not our timeline. So
right, because the big twist is that they want to find Earth, which in there there's also a religious belief, which I find interesting. So is it supposed to be like our Earth, or is it supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, time could be super wonky. You're right. This could be before Earth, after Earth. Parallel. I mean, does Earth even exist? We find out that maybe it doesn't.
Like, is this a colony that left Earth, then forgot about what Earth is, and are now trying to go back? Or is it a colony that has never been to Earth and are just going to try to find Earth?
At the end of the episode, I did take notes on this, on what he said specifically. So here's the thing. So at the end of this pilot, you see a couple things. One is that, I'm going to go into one thing that rolled into the whole Earth thing. One of the conclusions is that Adama wants to fight. He wants to go into the war.
Yeah.
But the president, Rosalind.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
President Rosalind says, no, you're not being logical. We already lost the war. It's now about surviving. It's now about basically the species surviving. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And she finally kind of convinces him.
Make babies, as she says. Everyone, don't you just feel like having sex and making babies right now?
and
I was just like, Jesus, lady, like.
And he's they find this like outpost where there's a bunch of ammunition, and they stop and they're getting ammunition, and he kind of he's in the what would you call it though? The war room? What was the ships?
The central area?
Yeah, the central
it's like the command center.
He's like command center.
Or the bridge. Maybe it's like the bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, and
he's close to the bridge.
Yeah, and he starts seeing like Billy talking to like one of the officers,
to Duala.
Yeah, and he sees like, oh, like she's right. Like we have to get out of here and survive. I mean, if you want.
I thought that was a slightly odd thing that is what sort of changed his mind, seeing two people flirting. I thought that's a kind of a weird trigger to sort of completely
switch. Is that what made him change his mind? Like, I know that's inferred from that scene, but I don't know. I feel like there's something deeper.
I mean, right before that, he was adamantly against her.
Yeah.
So,
no, I know. I don't know. If if that's really what they intended, it seems like a very.
There's a few things in general. I think there's only 3 criticisms I think I have of the miniseries. I think
not enough nudity.
I think there was a good amount actually.
Okay.
No, there was not.
One was that I felt like he needed more convincing to sort of, because when he heard of the Cylons returning, he was instantly full war mode. I'm here to kill them all, you know?
So also I feel like one skull in with a flashlight.
Yeah. So I feel like he's someone like Adama needs some good convincing, maybe from a philosophical point of view, because he does seem like a very intelligent man, to change his mind. I find it a little odd that one flirting scene in the distance changes his mind.
Also, he did have his son who was all in on fucking Rosalind.
That's true.
And like he was trying to go back and get more survivors, and he asked for like transporter ships or something.
Something
rescue pods. Disaster pods.
Yeah, disaster pod, which is an interesting term.
Yeah.
And, but the guy was like only really reluctant.
Personnel.
And was like, you only get 2 because it's you, because your dad's gonna be so happy to see you back.
Like, Colonel Ty's such a jackass.
That guy's
I like him too.
Dick.
I like him too.
Yeah, he's a jackass, but he's funny. You like him.
Yeah.
I like how Starbuck hates him primarily because he drinks.
Well, we learned she's pretty religious.
Well, they all are. It seems.
No, I know, but like, I just felt like. I don't know. Again, with the religion thing, it catches me off guard sometimes.
So where I was going with the whole stupid fucking Adama thing. So at the end, he's convinced that they need to go survive and they need to just run and not fight the Cylon. They just have to survive and go. It's like it instantly turns into the Terminator, which is we're on the run and the action happens while we're on the run. And that's kind of what hooked me, at least.
I think it's great, though. Terminator. I think it's great that because you could very easily write a story about we're going to fucking fuck up these Cylons. We're going to kill them all. It's a Starship Trooper story you could have made.
Yeah.
But instead, he goes for the hopeful method, which is we're going to try to find a way to make humanity survive. And I think it makes his character, it took his character, I think, I like Edward James Olmos, but his character seemed fairly straightforward at that moment. But once he starts being like, actually, no, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I go, wow, that's a really cool character now. I feel like it's someone who knows more than what his station is and is willing to listen to others and is a good leader. He's going to be a great leader in the show, I feel like.
Yes. And at the end, they're mourning their dad and they've escaped for the meantime. They've escaped the Cylons.
For now.
And he's talking about what the plans are, and morale's really low, because like a bunch of people died, some kids died.
There's a "So say we all" chant, and no one wants to say it. So
right,
and then eventually they say it, the "So say we all" chant.
Yeah,
and he basically like kind of like shits on like everything, kind of like him trying to fight things, and like basically he's like he gives a good speech of hope, which is. And the notes that I wrote is that the fact that they're like, okay, so like in the beginning of time, they broke, like our species broke up into two, like I would call tribes. A tribe that set up in the, what is it, the colonies of the
colonies of
12
Cobalt.
colonies.
Cobalt, yeah. And then another tribe that was heading towards Earth, which was
the 13th colony.
Yeah, 13th the 13th warrior.
But it's kind of a myth, a legend type thing. They're not really sure.
Because because later he's confronted by the president and says, I was in part of the highest ranks of government and no one ever said Earth is real.
And because he said I was like when he's talking about Earth, he says I like there was a few of us that knew exactly the location of Earth, and that's where we're headed. And like it's cool that he's giving them hope as well. I think that
I agree that they at this point they do need something to live for.
But it's also like noble because she says something along the lines of they're gonna really hate you for this, because I think she knows that they'll eventually find out, and I think he's immediately willing to take the fall for that. He's like, I don't mind if they're angry at me because I just want them.
I'm predicting they won't even have to get there because I think they will find Earth. So, and when they get to Earth, they'll realize that they need to make a big old U-turn because they'll see Donald Trump on the fucking things and they're like, oh, fuck, we should have never come. Like the fact that they were like, oh, we got to find Earth. It's our hope. Maybe we can live there. And I'm like, turn around. Go back.
What if they find
sucks.
Earth and it happens to be the time of dinosaurs?
Okay, that would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah,
and there would kill the dinosaurs.
They just fucking blast them.
It's like, wait, hold on. What era of Earth are we talking about here? Because if we're talking about modern day 2023, turn back around. I promise.
It won't be like a dark, grim
better.
ending. They come to Earth, but it is a far post-apocalyptic Earth. Like we already had our nuclear war.
Well, and they come to Earth, and the universes of Andromeda and our
they started melting already.
It's fucked up already.
In case people don't know, the Andromeda galaxy is actually hurtling towards the Milky Way. In like a million years, they'll start melding. And we'll see what the fuck will happen.
I just want it to be very comical. Like they arrive on Earth and they see like Paris Hilton with her little dog, and they're like, hey.
And they're like, oh shit, we need to get the fuck out of here.
And they're like, what is this place? Like,
I don't know why, but instead when you said you wanted it to be comical, I saw them like getting out of like a ship, and it's the Marx Brothers there to meet them.
Exactly.
Hey, welcome to Earth.
Just something crazy.
We're
And you're like, what is this place? Welcome to, is this Earth? And they're looking around and like, what?
So I love the show, and to be honest, like I think I'm gonna restart it again.
Well, we'll see. Okay, so I really like the show. I would say I had 3 primary problems with it. And one was the thing I brought up of his mind changing so quickly. 2 is I actually we skipped over it really quickly, but when they go to the munitions depot or whatever that's hidden in the nebula.
Yep.
First of all, I hate the whole sequence of Captain Adama in there, actually. I think it's really dumb.
When he kills the guy?
No, I think it's like, okay, we found the munitions thing. There's some weird guy here. Okay, Captain Adama's going to talk to him personally for some reason, and then people are going to fuck up, and random thing will explode, throw weird guy and Adama into a thing they can't open anymore, and Adama is just going to start traveling with them down tunnels. And I realized that it's supposed to be like a device to make sure that, one, it shows that Captain Adama is very, or Adama is very like capable as a fighter, because he beats up a super strong Cylon. Even though the Cylon is dying, it's still like impressive. And 2, it's to prove that, or to make sure everyone knows that they now know that Cylons can look like humans and they could be anyone. Right. So that's how they introduce that conceit. But it does feel kind of clunky because it's like a weird side story that feels like it's just thrown in. It doesn't. It feels really clumsily added.
But it does. Serve
granted, there are a lot of moving parts in these 2 parts here.
Yes. So I think it's like somewhat unbelievable that his his conclusion immediately, despite never having seen a Cylon like this before, is that he is a Cylon. I was like, how do you know that? How did you figure that out? That's kind of crazy.
This does lead to a couple things. The third thing I think it leads to is that they realize that because they get together. So Guy's Baltar, Adama, and the XO, I forget his name, Tyrol? Ty.
Drunkman.
Ty. Yeah. They all get together and Gaius tells them, oh, they look like humans, but they also there's nothing in their insides that tells us otherwise. They
only know until they're like burned and cremated. Then that's the only way we can find out.
Yeah. And they basically go, hey, keep it hush hush and find a test that we could administer to find out who else is a Cylon on the ship. And by the end of the episode, they find out that one of the reporters is a Cylon as well.
I have a question. Did he just bullshit that, or did he make an actual detector?
I'm don't know.
Not sure.
We don't. It's not. It's not clear. It's not clear in the pilot.
So there's a twist at the end of the episode. Let's just bring up this one really quick. There's so many threads, but this one. Let's just bring up this one quick thread so that we can go to the super twist at the end, which is so they have a reconnaissance ship. The reconnaissance ship is run by Boomer. I think that's her name. Yeah. And they go on a little side story where they get stranded on Earth as they try to fix things, but they have to save people there, but they can't take everyone. So they take a few people. That's how Gaius actually makes it to Battlestar Galactica. Actually, she saves him along with some children and some women. So
and she saves him because her partner in crime at the time, Hilo, says, "I'm giving up my seat. You go, Gaius."
Yeah, he does the heroic thing and he gives it to Gaius because he thinks Gaius is important.
Yeah, so you're an intelligent mind. You will make sure we survive.
The Stephen Hawking's kind of.
Yeah. He thinks he's like
without being an asshole.
Yeah. So he takes him, but the super twist at the end, it turns out, is that Boomer is a Cylon. So it makes it seem like, and the reason you know that is because when they accuse the reporter of being a Cylon, they throw the reporter into the empty munitions bay, basically as a prison. And when the Cylons come to break him out, it is revealed, it turns out he really was a Cylon. So does that mean his detector really did work? Or was it just an incredibly good guess?
In the pilot, we don't know. It's one of those question marks that they.
I felt like it meant their detector did work, and he really did do a detector. But I guess it's true. There's no true confirmation. He could just be incredibly lucky, I guess.
My memory of this is gone. I don't know the actual answer to this.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I can rewatch the show and have a pretty good time right now, I think. I'm almost tempted to do so. I
guess I think this is going to be a controversial one. I think my third criticism is that I don't think Katie Sackhoff gives a very good performance the whole pilot. I think
it feels a bit uneven.
I think
in the pilot, in the pilot.
I think it's that she seems too genuinely nice as a person for the character to come off as this gruff, I'm gonna be a badass and do this type of stuff thing.
Okay, yeah, I get what you mean by that.
She like, because when she smiles, that's when her performance seems genuine. But when she's doing like, "Come on, I'm a badass, let's do this" type of thing, that doesn't seem very genuine. I think she's the only.
We need a brunette.
There are a lot of blondes. Yeah.
Well, we need like an Angelina Jolie.
But I think everyone else
character.
But I think the only reason that her performance stands out is because everyone else gives a great performance. It's a really great,
they've got a great cast going on.
Yeah. And I know that like Edward James Olmos isn't going at 100, but even when he's like just cruising, he's great in the show. Like he's just like a pleasure just to watch a master of his craft.
There's
acting.
more character in his face alone than most people will achieve in their entire lives.
That's true. He has a lot of personality just by like looking at a piece of paper or something.
And I kind of like.
He's got a face for acting for sure.
Oh yeah.
I kind of like there's a moment somewhere where they had the both Lee and Commander Adama's faces lit in such a way where you could see that they both had really blue eyes. And I was like, that's kind of cool that they like have this physical trait to share that like kind of allows them to seem more like father and son.
Yeah. I think it's great. Yeah, there's a lot of little touches here and there like that. It's just great. Yeah.
Does anyone know why Starbuck has a picture of her passed away? I think his name was Zach.
Yeah.
But then on the other folded side of the photo has Lee. Like it's weird because it looks like a couple photo. Yeah,
I guess he was just third wheeling it that day.
But she didn't have a picture of just. It just felt like it was a very important. I don't even know if it is important. It just caught my attention when she unfolded it, and like Lee is on the other side of her in the photo.
Well, to me, it's the fact that she kind of feels the same way that Apollo feels about his dad. He kind of feels like maybe Apollo abandoned her, like his brother died and he never called, because she hadn't seen him in a long time. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And
at the beginning, she's pretty cold toward Lee as well. And
now that they have the bond again, she's like, okay, he's kind of like my brother again, like a friend.
I guess I'm just wondering why she had a photo that was like the three.
Well, why the picture exists in that way at all.
Okay, and the other part that we skimmed over is that between part 1 and 2, there's a death scare where Lee Adama is thought to be dead by both Starbuck and Commander Adama.
And I think that's
which allows them to repair their relationships a little bit.
There's so much going on in this.
Yeah, there's a lot. It is 3 hours. Granted, it's 3
even
hours.
With the 3 hours, there is a dense amount of characters. We haven't even touched on the really cool mechanic guy who runs the whole mechanic department.
I love Tyrell.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah, that is a good character. I do like.
Yeah.
And I like that he's in a relationship with Boomer. It's great. I love. It's like you could tell how much they all thought about how these characters should interact and live in this world together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like compare this to like I don't want to like necessarily shit on Star Trek, but compare this to like the pilot of TNG where you're like, wait a minute, how could they've never met? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why would
sure. They put a lot of thought into how characters interact and relate to each other.
Yeah, and what their histories might be like and why they act the way they do and what their stubbornnesses arise out of. I feel like it's like really well thought out. And which gives them a lot of believability as they rush through a lot of stuff because they have to.
Yeah, that's true. Well, since you brought up TNG as like a comparison point, like there are a couple of like points of difference that you can point to, like in comparison to TNG. Like, well, I guess this is a kind of fun exercise for us in particular, just because we are have come into this off of a Star Trek podcast, essentially.
Yeah.
And so, like, since we've been watching so much TNG, and what's funny is that, like, since I'd seen BSG first, like, long ago before I started TNG, I had kind of forgotten how harsh and cruel and awful things were for the BSG, like, crew and cast. Like how dire everything was and how everyone was fucking dying.
There's a fire. We have to like evacuate. We don't have time to
make decisions that fucking kill people all the time.
They have to do the Titanic thing where they close the doors and then fucking eject everybody.
And we have to jump away from the people who can't keep up with us and leave them for the Cylons.
Yeah, we skipped over the part where like the president had saved all the civilians and sort of gathered them in one spot. And then they realize the Cylon just spotted them. So they're like, should we leave now? And then they all agree, yeah, we should leave now. Anyone who's faster than light travel capable, let's leave now. And it's a brutal decision, but it turns out it's correct because the moment they leave, everyone else dies, and they had no time to transfer people over. Like,
it's gnarly, like harrowing stuff. And I was like, watching this, I was like, damn, I forgot how like horrible this beginning is for these people.
Yeah. Nobody gets to make a clean decision. Everyone has to make like really tough decisions that cause huge sacrifices. And it's like
you go from TNG, where they're like in a post-scarcity society where you can replicate anything and everything's plentiful, and like there's no money, unless you want it. Yeah. And then you compare that to the entire human race, eradicated down to 50K with no home planet anymore.
But this is why Deep Space Nine is better than TNG.
Yeah, so it's like, it also, since it starts our heroes on like the back foot, it also reminds me a bit of like Eva or Evangelion.
Yeah.
Where it's you are always short on resources.
Humans
and
are always the underdog. There is no
and the best we can do is a piece of shit. And we put everything into it.
And every new encounter requires a brand new strategy. Like they don't have a protocol. They just are making
we're just scrabbling together solutions wherever the fuck we can. And
by the skin of their teeth. Yeah. It's a very desperate feeling show.
Yeah.
And especially since and I love that you could have easily gone we already brought up Independence Day. What's the director of that fucking
Rennie Harlan. Nope.
What's the name of the Independence Day director?
Roland
Emmerich, right. So Roland Emmerich, imagine if Roland Emmerich directed this. The way he would direct the Cylons destroying humanity was he would have like a 30-minute long sequence of just showing cities exploding and ships being exploded and colonies exploding for like a long time, like an Independence Day or pretty much any movie he's made. But like Battlestar Galactica, it's probably partially for budget reasons, but they intentionally don't show a lot of the damage. They
just show people being scared.
They just show people reacting to it, so that you're not in the destruction. You're like reacting to news of the destruction, which makes it seem like surreal. You're kind of being like, oh my God, is that really happening? The same way they're feeling it on the Battlestar. They're like,
right.
Really? Caprica's gone? How is that possible? No one. And I think it's an interesting tone how everyone responds shocked, but not surprised. I think everyone responds as if oh my God, it finally happened. Like I don't think anyone has a response of how could that have happened? That's fucking crazy. That should be impossible.
Yeah, it implies that they've always considered Cylons an existential threat.
Yeah. It's almost like a Cold War thing where they're kind of like, oh, the nukes finally did go off. Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of ends up feeling a bit like that.
Yeah. It's fascinating how that's how they decide to approach it. And it turns it from it is like a very whiplashy thing, because I do think they imagine that sci-fi viewers at the beginning, and they kind of play into the tone of it where they're like, yeah, we're Battlestar Galactica is a museum and everyone's doing well, and we're just gonna have this little speech and all that stuff.
I will say though that the one time it started to get a little comical how much they're twisting the knife in all this tragedy is that little girl.
Oh yeah. They hold on her for 30 seconds.
It's I'm gonna go do all this stuff with my parents who are no longer alive.
And now I thought that was a little gratuitous when the page turns around and goes, by the way, that little girl you just talked to today is on one of those ships. I just thought you should know.
But the thing is, he didn't even give it with that tone.
No, exactly. But that's why else would you write that?
Yeah. Why else would you write that? But the way he delivers it does not carry that energy at all, and that's why it made me laugh.
Yeah. He's just saying it very plainly.
What was that for?
Yeah.
You don't even feel it doesn't even feel like you believed it.
Yeah. So but it's ultimately the right decision, because if they didn't do that, they actually would have all been wiped out.
Okay, so did anyone happen to notice that the engineering chief, Tyrrell's first name?
No.
His name is Galen.
Galen.
Is that where you got it from, Ricardo?
Ricardo, did you start calling Guinan Galen because of Galen Tyrrell?
Probably, dude. Probably. Here's the thing is that there's a bunch of names in here and the old noggin. And I can't keep new information. All I have is old information. So
everything's recycled.
Yeah. I knows what I knows.
Like I don't think I realized prior to like starting up recording this podcast with you, Ricardo, that you had seen BSG and thought it was and you liked it a lot. So
no,
it makes sense now.
Yeah. And it's funny, before we start recording, my wife and I were talking about BSG and how like we were satisfied with the ending. Like we were very satisfied. Like
interesting.
Beyond like. And it's funny because this and Lost came out at the same time, and it was totally totally different experiences.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
All I know about the ending, because I remember Dan told me something about the ending a long time ago, but I don't remember the details anymore. All I know now for sure,
just spoil it in as explicit detail as I could at the time, but like.
Yeah, but I don't remember the details anymore. All I remember is that it was not well received.
Yes, it definitely wasn't well received.
And Dan would even go as far to say, when he told people to watch Battlestar Galactica, watch everything but the final episode.
Oh no, I love the final episode.
I think I don't know if I said that. That might be something that Pat from Castle Super
I feel like you said that before.
I think I might have said like that last season definitely like feels a little bad for me. Like I'm pretty far away from it now, and I feel like that
whole season. Wow,
my grasp of it is pretty much gone. But like, all I remember in terms of feelings and sentiments is that like by the last season, I was like, I am so fucking sick of this song, and that's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
So I have to ask, Sarah, would you? What's the name of the show? What's the name of the show?
Stay tuned.
Yeah, sorry. That's it again. Jan, you asked again. Sorry.
Would I tune in? Would I stay
Sarah.
tuned?
Would you stay tuned?
Yes, I would stay tuned. Definitely. Nice. But I have.
Oh, but no buts. Yes or no, dude?
But.
Oh, big butts.
No, I'm kidding. Yes, I would absolutely stay tuned. What I liked most about this was. Okay, there's a couple issues I had that didn't really sell it for me in this initial pilot. That being the relationship between Apollo Lee and his dad. I'm not sure, that wasn't like a huge draw for me. I get that there's daddy issues and there's issues around his brother dying and who's responsible for that, which also we touched on that we learned that Starbuck actually passed.
Oh yeah,
him.
We didn't even say that earlier.
Yeah, part of it is actually her fault too.
So I would say it's a little bit of everybody's fault.
I feel like everybody
does seem
let
like
him
a little
down.
bit of everybody's
The whole
fault.
system kind of let Zach down.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah, and that
turns
sucks.
out Zach is fucking Zach Morris, dude. Twist. No, he's not.
And
damn
that
you,
sucks. And I feel very bad about that. I think it sucks, and that's super believable. I just don't know if I'm super hooked in on Adama and Lee's relationship and what's going on there. Like that was pretty weak for me in the pilot.
Okay.
But again, there's so many other
That's
really
totally
strong things.
Yeah.
Like the way their relationship plays out in the pilot episodes are just a weaker storyline for me.
I mean, like, given how much is going on, there's going to be something that's not a home run.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm sure that gets super interesting maybe in the future. It has potential for sure.
I'd say the one relationship for me that was kind of out of left field and I thought was really corny was the
Billy Dwella.
Yeah, and then I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, Billy.
I was like, that's a little much.
Yeah.
And kind of weird. But whatever. And I think I was also sort of annoyed that was the catalyst for Adama changing his mind, and but there's very little that's like to criticize about the episode. I think it's like really well done. Like,
and I still think that all the acting is really great. The twists and turns. These pilots for me have characteristics of what I look for in a pilot to continue watching. Like lots of little twists and turns. You have a ton of character building and world building, but also cliffhangers, so to say, that keep you wanting to tune in, because the last couple moments of this episode definitely did that for me, where we find out, oh my god, Boomer is a Cylon. What?
Yeah.
What? Is she a sleeper Cylon? Does she know she's a Cylon?
Remember, Sarah, you and I,
know.
the whole... So remember, Sarah, the whole episode, you and I were talking, we're like, I feel like there's got to be a Cylon on board already. I wonder who it is. And we kept speculating who it was, and we were both wrong.
Yeah. It becomes a fun game of who's the bad guy, who's the Cylon. You know, you're looking at everyone sideways, looking at everyone's behavior.
All right.
And the show does a really good job of peppering in little things that make you suspicious.
Yeah.
I got a question for Marvin and Sarah, because they're the ones who haven't seen it. In your hearts, currently, what's the first name that pops in your head when I ask you, who is the person who left that piece of paper that says there are 12 Cylon models?
Number 6.
I think it is scientist man, Gaius.
Oh my God, Marvin, you're having a really hard time with that.
Gaius,
I think it's because the way name recall works for me is the name appears in my head, but not with the pronunciation. Text.
How the tables have turned, dude.
Yeah, I know.
The tables have turned.
The tables have really turned in this episode. Marvin seems to be
I think it's Gaius. I feel like it's Gaius.
I definitely think number 6, because I feel like she's in a weird way trying to help the human race. And I don't know. My first initial impression is number 6.
Yeah, you get some sort of impression from number 6 that it's like, yes, she's doing what the Cylons are supposed to be doing, but she has conflicting reasons because she actually likes Gaius and wants him to. Gaius. And she wants him.
Ricardo. God.
She wants him to love her, which I think is really
fun because it's just a little off. It's not a complete off the wall free association thing.
I think like she wants Gaius to love her, which I think is really interesting. And I think he's incapable of that, which is why she's attached and trying to get it to work. I
have also a wider question. There's a topic that's covered in Battlestar Galactica, and I was doing some research online, and one of the main topics is about what it means to be human. And I just want to read this brief little paragraph that I think captures my thoughts while watching this pilot. And it's something that I think about all the time, honestly. So the major question that runs throughout the series of Battlestar Galactica is, are you alive? Are the first words spoken in the series from number 6 to a human is simply being alive, being human, not according to Adama. The Galactica is being decommissioned at the start of the series. It's old, it's outdated. The commander is old. The war between the Cylons and the humans is only remembered by the old. It's something for the history textbooks and museums for the young. Adama is a member of the old guard. He does not think people should forget the threats of the past and the threat of the past sins. During the Galactica's decommissioning, he speaks of how humans fought for their survival against the Cylons, but reminded those in attendance that they never asked why they were worth saving. Why do humans need to survive? He reminds his audience that humans still commit murder because of greed, spite, jealousy, and that humans still put all of their sins upon their children. You know, like, I guess that's what this person's trying to say. According to Adama, humans decided to play God, create life, and that life turned against them. Those children turned against them. And so I think this is a wider theme. Something that I think about all the time is, do humans need to survive? What is the core topic here? That I mean, I guess I'm just trying to say that Battlestar Galactica is clearly touching upon human race, what it means to be human. Should we stay here? There's only 50,000 of us left. There's a lot of arguments going each way on, should we continue to populate the race? Are we done? Is this it? Is this the end?
I think the thesis of it, especially with the way Captain Adamas talks about it, is that it's not enough to just live. You need to have a goal or some sort of purpose in mind. And that's why he posits the Earth idea, because he's like, I don't want to just survive. I want to give people a reason to survive. And I think that's why he thinks.
Well, I think in his mind, like, that is inherent to survival. Having something to live for is actually a requirement for survival.
I think
It's
he's
not that
also
surviving
asking,
alone will be insufficient. It's that they can't survive without that.
But I think it's cyclical. I think he also think that's what makes survival worth it.
Yeah.
Is that you're
he's
striving
also
for
asking, why are we worth
That's fair.
surviving as humans? And maybe this show will show us that through the characters, through like why are we going through all this trouble in the first place, right? Like, why are we fighting so hard to save ourselves when it maybe feels like our time is up?
Another genre that often asks this question is zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, right? Humans always put themselves on the other side. We've come through. We've made it. And I wonder what Battlestar Galactica will show us in this series to say that we should survive. We should keep going. We should try to continue as a human race, even though it's looking very bleak at the moment. So I'm very interested in continuing to watch the series to find out why that is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think what the button he wants to put on it, the captain, is that, or the commander, I guess he's the commander, is that it's like there's a visceral need to survive. Like, people are obviously doing things because they from like a fight or flight perspective.
Like instinct has told them to.
Yeah, instinct has told them to survive. But he's saying that won't be enough. And that isn't enough to make it worth it. We need to like have an overall goal for humanity, because otherwise, why are we doing it? I think. So I think that's what his thesis on it is. And I think that's why the president also sort of respects him for it and gives him command of the military and goes, yeah, if that's your point of view, you should take control of the military. That should be your.
And I think that having with Rosalind too, she's diagnosed with cancer. So I mean, you're talking about even more of a reason to like, why the fuck don't I just lay down and give up at this moment? I mean, or you could look at it the other way: is I got nothing left to lose. Either or. So,
she does bring up like she's always like she there was a conversation she had where she was like, you know, humanity is essentially about to die, and all I can keep thinking about is that I have cancer and I'm about to die.
Yes.
And it's like, it's really,
and I love that this show touches on that, because everybody, it's not just her character. They also touch on it on a couple other characters where they're Gaius too, where he's like, I think he also is thinking about having sex and doing his own thing and not really the repercussions of his actions outside of his own world. And I think that's really fascinating, because I really do think that's how humans operate at the end of the day. Is I think, have you ever heard that phrase that like nobody is really ever thinking about you? Like, we're so paranoid about what other people what other people think about us or perceive about us, but in reality, most people just think about themselves all day. So it's not, we're not.
Say that again. Say that again. Repeat that again.
There's a phrase to kind of help people who have trouble around how others perceive them. And it's kind of like a phrase that says that, you know, people are often not thinking about other people as much as they're thinking about themselves. Like it's not, there's a paranoia for people who have like social anxieties around meeting new people or being in a space with a lot of people where they think like, oh, what is Ricardo thinking about me? What is Dan thinking about me? What is Marvin thinking about me? When in reality, Ricardo and Dan are thinking about their lives and their own day, and they're not giving a second thought to you as much as your mind confabulates it to be.
Yes.
Like, you know, like you make it into like this mountain of like, oh my God, they noticed that like my hair is messed up, and oh my God, I'm freaking out. And it's like, actually, no, people are actually not thinking about you as much as you think they are.
Right.
And this touches on that. Like it says, she's talking about like, all I can think about is I have cancer, and this
and her aide responds like, well, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That means you're human. And I think that's a good summation of how we're viewing it, is that like, you have these insecurities and you think you're focusing on the wrong things, but you're just a human. Everyone's in a different context, and you're still trying to do the right thing. The president is still trying to do the right thing, what she thinks is the right thing, despite being so distracted by her own terminal cancer diagnosis. Like, by the story, she's going to die. I would not be surprised if she dies somewhat in the middle or even early in the series, you know, given the fact that she has cancer. So, and it was terminal. So
I don't know. Walter White lasted a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
But does This is true. I don't want to say anything about.
Don't say anything.
Spoilers.
Don't say anything.
Exactly.
And to touch on the Star Trek aspect of this, since we do also do a Star Trek podcast, which I can't help to make comparisons.
Yeah, it invites comparison. Yeah.
So Battlestar Galactica feels like a much cooler, rougher, dangerous, like world.
Okay, we're finally at the moment that I was kind of hoping we'd get to when we saw BSG, because like every time we would discuss like something on TNG where it said, I wish characters got into fights more. I wish people would, crew would fight with each other, and I wish there was more complications with relationships and sexiness, and it's all here.
Yeah, it's 100%. All here. And
well, I will say is so Ronald Moore, before he worked on Battlestar Galactica.
Ronald D.
Moore.
Yeah,
Ronald D. Moore.
Technically, the D stands for Dowell, apparently.
The D is silent, dude. Like Django.
Ronald's on Dowells.
Ronald Big D. Moore.
He worked on Voyager, and before that worked on Deep Space Nine.
Sure did.
And Deep Space Nine is like if Battlestar Galactica wasn't about a war.
Okay.
He also worked on TNG.
We'll see.
He also did work on TNG. Yes.
I think this world is really cool, and it also feels like a precursor, like where TNG might be. I know we're talking about time, and timelines are all fucked up and weird. Maybe we could think about it as like TNG is like way ahead, where like this is somewhere in between, like where we are now in 2023, and like technology, we can do space stuff, we can have that kind of stuff, but we're not as far as like warp travel for them is really difficult, and it's a big
that's
deal.
the thing. I think you
they
can
can't
gauge
just do it like nothing.
I think
they have to like wind it up and everything.
I think you can gauge it by their ability to warp, because in TNG they're warping all the time. It's no big deal. In Battlestar Galactica, it's like
we need to get there faster. Go 4 times the speed of light.
We need to sort of do all the calculations, and then when they do it, it's always a big event. They do the Jaws camera zoom effect, and everyone is really disoriented by it, and they clearly don't have inertial dampeners for when they have to go and warp.
I don't see it that way, where it's like, TNG's in the future. I see it more as it's two parallels that are it's a different side of the prism, basically. Like, so TNG's a optimistic view of the future. Where this is a realist view of the future.
This feels more realistic. That
TNG is assuming everything goes perfectly according to plan somehow.
After World War III.
After World War III.
That being said, I think I'd rather be in Battlestar Galactica's. I'd rather be on Battlestar Galactica than the Enterprise.
No, I would not. No,
100%. I would 100%.
I would.
Why would you want to be on a ship that's on the verge of being destroyed at all times versus the world of TNG, where everyone lives in utopia?
Vibe. No, it matches
TNG
my vibe
has a holodeck.
Better.
I want a holodeck.
I don't know. I'm more drawn to it.
If you're talking about actual like comfort of living, TNG by a mile.
Well, no,
that's not how I define life, though. That's not how I define life.
Well, their life is about to die at all times. That's not life either.
I'm more drawn to the world. I could see myself, if I had to pick, I would definitely, like, if someone was like, either you got teleported to Enterprise or you get teleported to Battlestar Galactica, I would pick Galactica.
You wouldn't.
It's like
I would. I 100%.
You would not choose Battlestar Galactica and almost die all the time.
I 100%.
How are you ever going to meet and make out with Riker?
Yeah, it is.
That's okay.
Like Riker, not Jonathan Frakes, but Riker.
I'll take Adama, old Adama.
Well, here's the thing.
Fine.
Here's the thing with that is that it's like the way I'm interpreting it and seeing it is that I get asked this a lot by like one specific friend, where she's like, "What would you do if you won the $1 billion lottery, the Mega Millions or whatever? You win $1 billion. What do you do?" And I'm like, probably help as many people as I can and still do what I do. Like I wouldn't change a thing. You'd have the ability to help people that you can't help right now. That's basically it. And she's like, "Oh no, I'd move to the beach and like do nothing. I wouldn't work and nothing." And I'm like, well, to me that doesn't, then there's no meaning to life then.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing you're working towards. There's nothing, you're not bettering yourself. Like you're not helping anybody. And he's like, and she's like, yeah, just retire by the beach, buy different beach properties, and then help my family. And I'm like, yeah, No, that's like to me. Like I'd rather be in the Galactica and like serve something than just explore shit.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm with you. I'm on the same page.
I'm
with you,
so
Ricardo.
not for that at all. I am like, why would we intentionally put ourselves in hardship when?
I mean, granted, TNG is not all sunny roses either.
No,
it is also in danger a lot. But
I can make food out of thin air.
Exactly. You got a replicator. You got a holodeck. You got some quarters. It's not that bad.
I hear a lot of eyes in your statement, Marvin.
Well, because you don't want to come with me, so you
no, I'm just saying. Is I really want to help. I'm drawn to
hear a lot of eyes
helping
in
the
your statement too.
Exactly.
That's true. And also, I want to help others. Like that's kind of like my.
That's
my
assuming
thing.
TNG doesn't have people who help others. That's absurd.
No, they're Ubers. They're Ubers.
You don't have to be suffering to help others or to be helpful.
Nah,
that's like those people who claim that artists need to suffer to make good art. I think that's bullshit. I don't think they do. Hitchcock never suffered. He made great art. Like I don't think that's.
I'm just saying I'd rather fight for the fight feels there's a very real fight and fight for life here, and that appeals to me more. Like that burns a fire within me. Where on the Enterprise, it seems a little bit less inspiring for me.
But on the other side,
I can totally get. I like you. I like that you put it that way.
On the other side, on the flip side of this, is that they have holodecks. So holodecks are cool.
They have holodecks. They have replicators.
Pretty fancy.
Hey, we don't know. Yeah. This is just the pilot of BSG. We don't know what technology brings.
Spoiler alerts. There are no replicators.
Yeah, there's no fucking replicators.
It's okay. Yeah. They give you fake ice cream. I don't need that. So I want the real thing.
You can get the real thing.
Yeah, at Battlestar Galactica. So
TNG too.
I continued to watch it, so I did stay tuned.
Right.
Yeah.
I already stayed tuned.
Yeah.
Way back when.
How many seasons is it?
Was it 4 or 5?
I think it was like 3 seasons. I think
only 3.
Yeah, because I think they wrapped up how they wanted to in the way they wanted to.
It was 4 seasons.
It was 4 seasons. Okay.
Yeah.
So they had a middle movie, and then they had a 4th season, and then they had a final thing. Yeah, that's what happened.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Razor and the plan.
Yeah.
By then I was kind of following along, I think, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just got confusing.
I guess for my part, I would also stay tuned. I think the major thing is that when I start a TV show, because I pretty much always want to start a TV show, whether it's serial, episodic or not. It's partially why my brain doesn't let me get into Doctor Who, because you can't actually start from the beginning. It's not really possible. But I like to know the pilot tells me, hey, you're in good hands. And a lot of the really good shows I get into, it's like the first episode or so really is like, this is really, really well made. They're probably going to keep this up, probably. So that's why I want to stay tuned, because I'm like, this is super well made, and I would love to know how they continue based on this foundation they've just made. So
I agree with that, but
it's pretty good.
But The Wire changed everything for me.
What?
The Wire changed everything for me.
That's interesting.
Wait.
The story for you is that you didn't like the first episode, right?
Like I thought it was like just okay. Like I was like, this is the best show on TV ever. Really? And to that's why I think I give shows more leeway. Like
the thing is,
if a premise seems interesting, like just like you tell me like, oh, there's these ghouls and they're chasing these other ghouls, and I'm like, oh well, those ghouls look interesting, and I like the filmmaker there. Okay, I'll give it like 3. Now I'm like a 3 episode guy, and then
to me, The Wire, it has been a while since I've seen the first episode of The Wire, but I had the feeling with The Wire that I am in good hands. It's just that I am not seeing the whole picture yet because there's so much going on. That's the feeling I had from The Wire, where I was like, this is really well made and really thoughtful in the way it's framing things and the way the characters are told to interact or set up to interact. And I was like, this is well done. I'm just not getting the whole picture yet. I would like to continue.
But had it already aired? Had people told you this is the best show ever?
But I don't really care about that. I think I wanted to know from the first episode, do I feel like I'm in good hands?
Yeah.
Primarily, I guess I view it more formally, because I feel like formally Galactica is done really well. And The Wire formally is a really well shot, well thought out show. So I appreciate that. If your technical storytelling and your design is really good, I feel like I want to keep watching because you did not waste my time. Like you valued my time. You know?
On the same. No, it's not even the same. It's the flip side of this. That, like take for instance, like people keep saying, "Oh, Breaking Bad, one of the best shows ever." Right? I watch it. I agree. It's really fun. I got to keep watching it. But it's been a couple weeks. I've watched the first season, and now I'm like, I could not watch it ever, and I'll be fine with it. Where The Wire was like, no, I have to keep watching this. When I got to the third episode, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's also like what calls to you. Like, is it like the filmmaking process that calls to you? Is it the stories? Is it the characters? Maybe you're just a character guy or lady. Sorry, you're just a character person. So you're like, oh, the story may suck now, but like I'm in on these fucking characters. Like I don't give a shit if.
There's a lot of stuff where you're like the story's not great yet, but these. That's kind of how I felt about the Bear. For a bit, I was like, I don't really like the stories they're coming up with, but I like the characters they're starting to build. So I want to stay tuned 100%. For that.
That's how I felt about.
Minor spoiler: I stay tuned for the Bear.
That's how I felt about like Nip Tuck, where it was like, oh, I don't know if I'm 100% in, but like these characters are interesting, and I want to see more of them. I'll keep watching.
Yeah, and that's how I felt about The Wire too. I'm like, I was like, I like the way they're setting these guys up. Same for like, because I remember you had said a similar thing about Mad Men. And you're like, Mad Men does not have a great pilot. I'm like, I thought it did because those characters are so strong.
That's what kept me watching. As opposed to like there's nothing in it that I'm like, oh man, I totally relate to these fucking Park Avenue dudes.
No, I'm like, they're a bunch of bitches, and I would like to know why they're like this.
Yeah.
So that's the way I view it. But
so all right. So there you go. We would stay tuned.
Oh yeah, I would totally stay tuned. I wanted to stay tuned after we finished. I was like, wait a minute, what happens to Boomer?
To be honest, like the very first episode of the actual show is actually a pretty like good starter for a show too.
Oh, they probably knew because they're like, we're getting to start a real show now, a real full show now. And, we got to kind of bring people in. It
opens with like a gimmick or scenario that is like, this is a problem we need to fucking solve, man.
Yeah. You know what too is I think. And now that I'm going back and because I deep dove into all these goddamn episodes, is that I think that they did the movie as like a proof of concept to sci-fi, and then they were like
series.
Well, they did the pilot as just its own thing. We're like, let's see if we have enough viewers, and then we'll do the series. And I think they were like, okay, do the series, but like do it so like if people didn't see the fucking 3-hour movie, they could get into it, and that's why.
That's a really tough task.
But well done.
They managed to make it work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because that I would be like flustered. I would be like, how the fuck am I supposed to? Make sure people are still up to because it was it was such a dense 3 hours. How the hell are we gonna?
And I feel like the miniseries makes a good prequel where you're like, oh, well, there's more before that. Oh, gotta go watch it. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, cool.
We did it.
It seems like BSG is certified tunable.
May the tune
into that.
We would stay twisted.
We can all stay tuned to BSG. So cool. Nice work, everybody.
Follow us wherever followers are sold.
That was Battlestar Galactica, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And this was also Would You Stay Tuned? Thank you so much for staying tuned through this. Would you stay tuned for more? We hope so. Anyway, if you would like to stay tuned to other things that we do, you can find us at fugitiveframes.com. It's where you can find all the things that we do, including Newbie Star Trek, which is our other podcast, which is maybe how most of you know who we are.
Yeah. Next time we'll do another show. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
We're going to do these.
We're not even sure what other show it would be, but I mean,
we're going to do this on like a semi-regular basis. It won't be like as often as we do Newbie Star Trek So yeah, it's going to be basically when it strikes our fancy, we'll do a list.
Right. Since we don't have like a list of episodes to go through systematically, it's a lot more freeform here.
Yeah.
But you know what? Because this was like a Ronald D. Moore pilot, it reminded me of another Ronald D. Moore pilot I have watched before that I think I want you guys to check out at some point. Because it didn't get made into an actual show.
Really? Oh, that would be fascinating.
I would love to check that out.
Yeah.
What is it?
I need to track it down and remember what it was named, but it was about it was about magic.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right.
We could do that as like a theoretical. Would you stay tuned?
Well, yeah, like it's a sort of thing where we can't stay tuned.
It would actually be fascinating to do. Would you stay tunes on pilots that fail to create series? Because then we would have stay tuned, or maybe we wouldn't have stay tuned.
And if we do that, it'd be kind of fun to be like, what would be a good first episode for this? Or like a good next episode for this?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. That's a concept. That would be fun. Yeah.
Potential idea in the future. So you should stay tuned.
Yeah. Dear listeners,
thank you so much for listening. We will see you on the next episode. Would you stay tuned?
Catch you next time.
Goodbye.